Welcome to a very special edition of Tips, Tricks, and Oops podcast. My name is Estin.
This is Terese.
I'm Sanford.
We are on location at the Mabee Hall at Newman University. And we are going to do a resources and technology talk with our assistive technology camp for 2012.
And we're recording this on June the 5th, 2012.
As a person who doesn't normally use a BrailleNote, or someone who might be going shopping for a note taker, or someone who's losing their vision, has to convert to another device, what is it about the BrailleNote? What can I use it for say getting on the internet other than taking notes? Can I use it up to get on the internet? Can I use it to do email? Can I use it to do things that are going to be functional for something outside the classroom?
Yes.
Yes, you can. The BrailleNote's web browser is very minimalistic. It's basically a mobile web browser, and so you have to be careful about the web pages you load. I have seen this many a time where you load a page, you get it, and all of a sudden you get this. Let me see if I can remember. Fatal application error dialog. Keysoft.exe has performed a fatal action and needs to be reset.
Oops.
When the first time you see that message, it scares everything out of you because that sounds like it's going like Keysoft has just kind of crumbled and died. But honestly, all you have to do is hit the reset button and it comes back. So that was a problem with memory management, and they fixed that for the most part. But you still get that error on occasion, especially with big sites like Facebook. And if you're going to use Facebook on the BrailleNote, you want to use the mobile Facebook site because otherwise, well, the normal Facebook site won't actually load on the BrailleNote. So, at least in my experience, they won't load. And B, you don't really want to be loading all of that stuff with that. So just be careful what you load with it. With the Apex, it's a lot easier to connect to the internet because it has an Ethernet port and because of the modifications that Humanware has made in their software.
With the Empower, you need a Wi-Fi card. And actually, tonight, I didn't bring mine with me, so I couldn't get on the internet. You could. So that certainly would be the difference between the two.
Correct.
The other thing in terms of tips, I'm just tipsy tonight.
Uh-oh.
The other thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if it happens quite as much or to the same degree with the Apex, is that as you put more and more files in a given directory, it will get to the point where it takes them longer and longer to load into memory when you want to go into them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I find to get around that is set up new folders and keep them smaller in terms of the number of files that you're storing in them. Is that true with the Apex too, Justin?
To a certain extent. You probably could get 200 or 300 files without it having that problem, I would think. Especially if they're smaller files. Now, if they're books that are large, you probably will have a lot more problems with that. Another thing with the Apex is that people are going to like this. There's a video port on the Apex. So what you can do is you can plug in a video, VGA port cord into the Apex, and then plug the other end into the monitor, and then you can see everything that is on the BrailleNote's display. So, and that's been updated a lot. So it's a lot easier to use and a lot easier to be able to do that. I remember as a kid trying to line up the infrared port from the Apex, or from the Empower and the Palm Pilot. And it was very, very difficult to manage. And I don't know if you guys have any experience with doing that anymore. They probably don't do that anymore, because I'm not sure they have any Palm Pilots anymore, to be perfectly honest with you.
I don't think they make those anymore.
But that's what I remember, is trying to get that, and now it's so much easier. So let's move on a little bit here and talk a little bit about the technology we use on our various laptops and computers. Okay. I know that a lot of you, well, all of you should be using all of the students here will be using System Access for the most part. Some of them probably have experience with JAWS. And I know some of them, I know at least one of them has experience with NVDA, which is non-visual desktop access. But Sanford, have you ever messed with NVDA much?
Not very much, no.
Not very much. I use it for a backup screen reader, and the reason I do that is because if for some reason I can't get System Access to work, then I end up having to use that as a backup screen reader, and it works pretty well. And Terese, I know you use a magnifier, so your situation is a little bit different, correct?
I use Zoom Text, but I also use Window Eyes, which is another screen reader that's out there that has been around probably just as long and is just as well established as JAWS is. But it's not used very often in schools. But it's a very stable, that is my screen reader of preference.
And as it is mine.
Yes, yes.
I'm the only odd one in the group. I use System.
Well, at least you recognize it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You know, they're over here using Window Eyes, and I'm using System Access and NVDA. But you know, that's not to say that using one screen reader is bad and using two screen readers is bad. We all have a different way of doing things, and you know, with Terese having low vision, she can use Zoom Text, but she could also use System Access if she wanted to, and use the magnification.
Let me just add to that, because since there are so many options out there for y'all, which is fantastic. I remember when there weren't very many options out there. But if you are learning how to use a screen reader and you aren't comfortable, say System Access seems to be a little too complicated for you, or you can't remember the keyboard shortcuts for one reason or another, or it just doesn't feel comfortable, go ahead and take the leap and download the 40-minute demo of JAWS, or there's a 30-minute demo of Window Eyes. Don't be afraid to stick your toes in the water a little bit and experiment a little bit. And with Zoom Text, there's there's speech access in Zoom Text as well. So you can combine the two. And if you are using a screen reader, or excuse me, a screen magnifier, and you find that you need a little bit more direction than what the voice is giving you with Zoom Text, you can actually combine Window Eyes with Zoom Text, so they will work together. They work very nicely together, and it kind of helps you make the transition from your magnifier to your screen reader. And it's the same way with Magic and JAWS. Those two work in conjunction with each other, so you can use them and make that transition if you have a degenerative eye disease and you need to make that transition. So don't be afraid to jump out there and just try all of these things.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You know, we give you guys these computers, and we give you the training that we think you need to get started with System Access. But as long as you have a good understanding of the Windows keyboard commands and the Microsoft Office Word keyboard commands, between JAWS and System Access, a lot of the keyboard commands that you use with System Access will work very well with JAWS. So by learning system access, you also can take those concepts that you learn and use them with JAWS. And a little bit the same with NVDA. And I don't know about Windows.
Yeah, it's true. As a matter of fact, as I was watching this through the day, as you were going through training today, when Justin and Liz were working with you on the shortcuts to the keyboard, those are all Windows shortcuts. I'm wondering, Estin, just to throw out one more curveball. When you go through all of that and you go to Mac, how much of that carryover do you still have?
Okay, so the Mac keyboard short commands and the Windows keyboard short commands have very, very, very little to do with each other. If you know the Mac keyboard short command, keyboard commands, then it'll work on the Mac. But the Windows ones, for the most part, will not work. But here's the thing. If you know certain things, then you can figure out a lot, okay? If you know that Control-C that copies something to the clipboard, the control command, the control key is pretty much the command key for Mac, okay? So Control-C is copy. If the control key is now the command key for Mac, then I'm betting you guys can guess what the command to copy text would be for a Mac. You guys have any idea?
Would it be Command C?
Correct, Braden. That's right. It's Command C. So you use that copy feature. But I'll give you an idea of where they differ too. To close a window in Windows, which is what to say, when you close a window in Windows, you use Alt F4, right? To close a window in Mac, you use Command W. Not much similarity there.
Now, if you, though, in terms of advising somebody, if you were in a school district that was using iPads,
Yeah.
would you then recommend that the student look at supplementing the iPad with a Mac instead of getting a Windows machine?
So you're asking me if I would suggest to somebody getting a Mac with an iPad rather than getting an iPad and a Windows machine?
Mm-hmm.
I would. The biggest issue would probably be productivity, which means like Word, PowerPoint, stuff like that. The issue with Mac right now is that a lot of, let's say, pages, keynote, numbers is not terribly accessible using VoiceOver, which is unfortunate. And neither really is the 2011, I think, 2011 version of Office for Mac. I think it's 2011. I don't think that that's going to be a very good option if they're going to be doing a lot of productivity. However, they can use Pages on their iPad, and that's pretty accessible.
Well, I guess that is all that we have for this episode.
Tips, tricks, and oops.
Thanks for joining us.